look at areas where we could possibly reduce the total area of maintained turf. You know, the Derrick Club is kind of a tight golf course, and we certainly aren't proposing to grow up, you know, knee-high grass all over the place where people are going to lose golf balls. But there are some areas throughout the course where I think we can try to cultivate some native grass areas for the purposes of reducing those related outputs for the sake of the environment. I think it's also going to be an opportunity to beautify the golf course in a natural fashion. These particular areas too also serve as wildlife habitat, which is nice in an urban environment, as this golf course is in. So anyway, those particular areas are illustrated on the plan as well, if you take a more detailed look at that. This is a golf course in New York called St. George's, and you can see they have some of the most beautiful native grass areas at a play, but it really beautifies the golf course. And actually that particular picture reminds me of looking at your ravine crossing in front of number 2 tees and number 3, where there might be some opportunity, you know, off to the left of number 2 tee shot, for example, to create some nice native grass areas like this. Your water features. I know I sound like I'm beating a dead horse here with lack of aesthetic continuity, but you know, here we go with the water features again. The position the location of your water features is not a problem whatsoever. But again, the aesthetics are a bit of an issue from my perspective. When you've got some ponds that have, you know, nice grass banks on them, which I prefer, you know, natural looking pond. Then you've got your decrepit railroad ties in front of number 4 tees, which, you know, basically at the point where they're going to fall into the water. And then you've got the pond over on number 14, which has a different treatment of wooden bulkhead. It would be nice to redo the ponds as part of a comprehensive improvement plan project, you know, in similar fashion to just restore that aesthetic continuity amongst the water features. But more important is the issue of deepening and dredging the ponds. Somebody told us today that the ponds were dredged in 1975, I believe it was, last time. You know, so we're looking at over 40 years already. No, is that right? I can't do math. 36 years. You know, a lot of debris and a lot of organic matter is collected in those ponds that ideally should be taken out for the purposes of restoring more water storage capacity, which is very important at this club. Doing that will also result in clearer, cleaner water, a better presentation of the ponds. Fewer weeds are going to show up once you get rid of that organic matter. And if we rebuild the golf course, we're certainly going to be able to generate some significant material that's going to be required to do some of the things that we want. So it's a perfect tie-in economically. One thing that we didn't point out last night is the economy of it. If you go in and try to deepen those ponds without having somewhere to use the dirt locally, simply transporting that material off-site, right, Daryl, is going to be a significant expense. So, you know, doing this work on the ponds at the same time that we hopefully are able to do some improvements on the golf course, it is going to be economic. Just an example of the type of pond that I have in mind when I talk about a nice, you know, natural-looking grass bank. That's the 3rd hole at a course called Plainfield in New Jersey, where they play one of the FedEx Cup final events on the PGA Tour. Coincidentally, that's almost if you've looked at my plan, that's almost a mirror image of the new 16th hole that I'm proposing for this particular golf course. Practice areas. One of the most interesting things to me, again, creating 5 new holes and rerouting and resequencing the golf course had more to do with resolving safety issues, creating a little bit more variety, etc. All those things I talked about earlier on. But once I got through, I had a bunch of different maps in my office. Probably had 10 or 12 different options about how we could fix some of the issues we talked about. But once I arrived at what I thought was the best option, suddenly there was a spot which is basically in the middle of your current 5th and 7 fairways that opened up. There's a new 14th hole and a new 15th hole, and there's a big triangular area between those holes, again, that are those particular fairways that opened up. And I really believe that there's an excellent opportunity to create a really interesting short game practice area. You would get to it by leaving the putting greens here and just kind of walking behind number 4 green, heading out toward the existing 5 tees. Back in that area, we could build 3 or 4 greens with some bunkers and some chipping areas. And I think it would be excellent for any golfer to practice. Be a great spot to have junior clinics, the kids to learn the game. Again, an excellent asset for the type of club that the Derrick is. And the driving range as well, of course. I think one of the best improvements that we can make there, as is proposed on the plan, is to use a lot of the material that we're going to dredge out of these ponds, hopefully, to create some natural-looking hills. When we were playing golf today, we used, on our course tours as well, we used the back of 6 green and 7 tee as an example. It'd be really nice to build some hills, not mountains that look phony, but actually a big hill that looks like it's been there forever to sort of screen view of the range from number 6 green and number 7 tees, and at the same time provide a buffer between the range and the golf course in terms of people playing on the range and again views into the range from the golf course. So for those of you who have looked at the booklet that Ron showed and maybe looked at the plan online, we've provided some photo visualizations that sort of illustrate some of the ideas that we have for a few of the holes out here. So we're just going to flip through some of those slides and go through some of the highlights of the changes that are being proposed. There's obviously a view of your first and 10th tees. And I'm expecting a huge gasp again when I flip to the next slide, but I'll explain the idea behind this after the gasp. In my opinion, that particular area is simply cluttered. There's trees and signs and paths cutting between the tees, and it's not as well presented, especially for a first tee area, as I would like it to be. So there's what is being proposed. And somebody brought up a great point last night, and I'd actually forgotten about this thought, and I'm glad that she did. But first of all, to me, sometimes in golf course architecture, we just say, we use a simple phrase that things look like golf. And golf is a game of open space. So, when you talk about standing on a tee where you're sort of in this claustrophobic situation with trees overhanging you, you got a safety net here, and signs, and ball washers, and a cart path, it really doesn't feel like golf. And I think by opening up this area, rerouting the paths to either side of the tees, and taking down the trees, thank you very much.
It's like a strike shooting range.
1 second, thank you for bringing that up. Lady last night that I talked to, if you can imagine somebody on the first tee, okay? When I stood on the first tee today, I can't see anything down 10, nothing. There's a wall of evergreen trees. So the lady says, my husband slices it all the time. He's always in 10 fairway. And I said, well, do those trees stop his ball from going into 10 fairway? Never. They never stop it. You know what they stop? You know what they stop it from? They stop it from him seeing who his ball's going to hit in 10 fairway. That's what the trees do. And that's always a sensitive argument, but in a lot of cases, a line of trees makes it more dangerous than it being open space. Because if there were some people in 10 fairway playing their approach to the green and you were about to tee off, you might wait, however many seconds or a minute that it takes for them to play their shot, walk to the green, and then tee off. And trust me, I've been through this at a number of clubs that I work with, and some people will never believe that open space is safer than trees, but I have got it on good authority that those existing trees do not stop a single ball from going into 10 fairway, unless you hit a screamer off the toe. It's not got any height on it, but anyhow, we can argue that another time.
Can I just have one? Yeah. Another thing at the moment, if you're playing on the first tee,